Marcus Reed never planned to become entangled in interstellar politics. As a salvage specialist working the outer rim of human space, he preferred the quiet company of broken machines to the complications of people. But fate had other plans on that dust-swept morning when the silver ship fell from the sky. He'd been tracking the vessel's descent from his workshop, an old mining outpost repurposed into a repair station. The ship's trajectory was wrong, its hull blazing too bright as it cut through the atmosphere. When it finally struck the ground, the impact shook the desert floor. "Another rich tourist who can't pilot worth a damn," Marcus muttered, loading his tool kit into his sand skimmer. He told himself he was just checking for salvage. The truth was, he'd never been able to ignore a distress signal, even an unspoken one. The wreckage trail stretched nearly a mile across the red dunes. As Marcus approached the main hull section, his sensors picked up a single life sign, weak but persistent. He found her in what remained of the cockpit, her crystalline skin taking on the purple hue of the setting sun. She wasn't human. That much was obvious from the geometric patterns that traced her features and the way her hair seemed to float in invisible currents. "Don't move," Marcus said, medical scanner already running. "You've got internal injuries." Her eyes opened, all three of them, and fixed on him with an intensity that made his breath catch. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of command even through obvious pain. "The beacon! You must destroy it." "Lady, the only thing we need to destroy is the infection setting into those wounds." Marcus reached for his medkit, but her hand caught his wrist with surprising strength. "You don't understand. I am Nyxis, first daughter of the crystalline dominion. That beacon will bring those who wish me dead. And now," her grip tightened as her gaze bore into him, "now you are involved." Marcus had heard stories about the crystalline dominion. Everyone on the rim had. Their technology was centuries ahead of humanity's, their culture bound by traditions so complex that simply greeting one of their nobles incorrectly could start a war. "Look," he started, trying to keep his voice steady, "I'm just a mechanic, whatever political mess you're." "By the laws of my people, you have initiated the right of sanctuary," Nyxis interrupted, her tone leaving no room for argument. "The moment you chose to aid me, our fates became intertwined." The distant whine of approaching ships cut through the desert air. Nyxis's expression hardened. "They're here. Choose quickly, Marcus Reed. Leave me to die or accept the consequences of your compassion." Marcus looked at the horizon, then back at the injured alien princess. He knew he should walk away. He knew this would complicate his life in ways he couldn't imagine. He also knew he'd never be able to live with himself if he did. "Well," he sighed, already reaching for his emergency teleporter, "I guess I'm about to learn a lot about alien politics." Marcus's workshop wasn't designed for hiding alien royalty. The converted mining outpost groaned under the strain of its life support systems as he sealed the blast doors, acutely aware of the search vessels circling overhead. Nyxis sat perched on his workbench, her crystalline form casting prismatic patterns across the cluttered space. "You still haven't explained why they're hunting you," Marcus said, checking the bandages he'd applied. The medical nanites were working, but slower than they would on human tissue. "Or what you meant by intertwined fates." Nyxis's third eye blinked independently of the others, a gesture Marcus was beginning to associate with amusement. "In my culture, to save a life is to claim responsibility for it. You are now my sentinel bound by honor and cosmic law to ensure my survival." "I didn't agree to that," Marcus protested, though he suspected it wouldn't matter. "I'm a mechanic, not a bodyguard." "The choice was made the moment you showed mercy," she replied. Her geometric patterns shifted, creating complex designs that seemed to pulse with her words. "But perhaps it will comfort you to know that I am also bound. My life is now pledged to your protection as well." Marcus ran a hand through his dust-streaked hair. "Great, mutual life debt with an alien princess, just what I needed to complicate my week." A thunderous impact rocked the workshop. Warning lights flashed as external sensors detected multiple hostiles. Through the security feeds, Marcus watched as armored figures deployed from the search vessels, their suits marked with the insignia of the Crystalline Dominion's elite guard. "Those are your people," Marcus observed. Why would they want you dead? Nyxus's patterns darkened, her floating hair settling like it was weighted with grief. Because I discovered something I was never meant to know. The Dominion's peace is built on a foundation of lies, and those who guard our secrets will stop at nothing to maintain them. Another explosion rattled the walls. Marcus checked his weapons, a standard pulse rifle and a few shock grenades. Against Dominion tech, they might as well have been slingshots. My ship, Nyxus said suddenly. If we can reach it, there may be hope. The quantum core is still intact. The ship that's currently scattered across half the desert, Marcus asked incredulously. The one surrounded by heavily armed guards who want to kill us. The very same. A smile curved her crystalline lips. Unless you'd prefer to stay here and explain to them why you've committed an act of interstellar treason. Marcus glanced at his security feeds again. The guards were setting up what looked like heavy artillery. His workshop's shields wouldn't hold for more than a few minutes. You know, he said, grabbing his emergency pack, I always wanted to see how Dominion ships worked. Didn't expect it would be while putting one back together under fire. Then you accept your role as my sentinel? Nyxus asked, her three eyes fixed on him intently. The workshop shuddered under another barrage. Marcus checked his teleporter's charge, barely enough for 2 short jumps. It would have to do. Ask me again if we survive the next hour, he replied, offering her his hand. Right now, let's focus on not getting vaporized by your very angry relatives. Nyxus took his hand, her crystalline skin cool against his. You should know, Marcus Reed, that in accepting my touch, you've just completed the second ritual of binding. Marcus froze. The what? But before she could explain, the workshop's main shield failed with a catastrophic surge. As alarms blared and the guards began their breach, Marcus activated the teleporter, sending them both into the heart of the desert storm that was rapidly engulfing his world. His last thought, as reality twisted around them, was that he really should have opened that noodle shop his mother always suggested. The desert night blazed with weapons fire as Marcus and Nyxus materialized beside her crashed ship. The teleporter sputtered and died in Marcus's hand, leaving them stranded among the twisted wreckage. Above them, searchlights cut through the darkness, drawing ever closer. The quantum core, Nyxus said, her crystalline form pulsing with urgency. It's beneath the primary hull section. Marcus spotted the piece she meant, a massive chunk of silver metal half buried in sand. And what exactly are we going to do with it? Because unless your people's tech has gotten a lot more compact, that thing's not fitting in my pocket. We don't need to move it. Nyxus pressed her hand against the hull, geometric patterns flowing from her fingers into the metal. We need to activate it. The sound of approaching hover vehicles filled the air. Marcus readied his pulse rifle, knowing it would do little against Dominion armor. Whatever you're doing, do it faster. The core requires 2 crystalline signatures to initialize, Nyxus explained, her patterns glowing brighter. One royal, one. She glanced at him meaningfully. Marcus's eyes widened. No, don't tell me. The binding ritual we began, she continued. It's already changing you at a molecular level. Your cells are crystallizing, adapting to match my resonance. Marcus looked at his hands. In the starlight, he could see faint geometric patterns beginning to form beneath his skin. You're turning me into one of you? Without asking. Would you have agreed if I had? That's not the point. A plasma bolt struck the sand nearby, turning it to glass. Marcus ducked, returning fire more out of instinct than hope. A little warning about the whole species-changing thing might have been nice. The warning wouldn't have changed the necessity, Nyxus replied calmly. Now place your hand beside mine. Focus on the patterns you feel forming within you. More plasma fire lit up the night. The Dominion guards were closing in, their heavy weapons charging with an ominous whine. Marcus had a choice, but not really. He pressed his palm against the hull. The sensation was immediate and overwhelming. Energy surged through him, his newly forming crystalline patterns blazing to life. He could feel Nyxus beside him, her consciousness brushing against his through the connection. Images flooded his mind, fragments of memories that weren't his own. He saw the Dominion's great crystal cities, floating in space like frozen stars. He saw ancient machines buried deep beneath worlds, pulsing with terrible purpose. And he saw Nyxis, discovering records that were meant to stay hidden, learning that her people's entire civilization was built on a foundation of. "No," Marcus gasped, trying to pull away. "That's impossible." "Now you understand," Nyxis said softly. "Why they hunt me, why I had to run." The quantum core hummed to life, reality rippling around them. The approaching guards opened fire, but their plasma bolts warped and twisted, drawn into the growing distortion field. "What's happening?" Marcus asked, his voice distorting as space-time buckled. "We're accessing the quantum network," Nyxis explained. "Every Dominion ship is connected to it, even wreckage like this. With 2 crystalline signatures, we can use it to travel." "Travel where?" "Somewhere they won't follow." Her 3 eyes met his. "Do you trust me?" Marcus laughed despite himself. "I let you turn me part crystal. Pretty sure we're past trust issues." The quantum field expanded, enveloping them completely. The last thing Marcus saw before reality shifted was the look of shock on the guards' faces as their quarry vanished into thin air. Then everything twisted, folded, and reconstructed itself around them. They materialized in what appeared to be an abandoned space station, its ancient corridors lit by the soft glow of emergency power. Marcus stumbled, his partially crystallized body struggling to adjust to the quantum transition. "Welcome," Nyxis said, "to the last free outpost of the Old Dominion. Here we can prepare for what comes next." "And what exactly comes next?" Marcus asked, still trying to process everything he'd seen in those shared memories. "We save both our species," she replied. "Because if we don't stop what the Dominion has planned, there won't be a galaxy left for anyone to rule." The abandoned station creaked and groaned around them, its ancient systems slowly awakening to their presence. Marcus followed Nyxis through darkened corridors, his newly crystallized patches of skin casting prismatic reflections on the metal walls. Each step brought fresh discomfort as his body continued its transformation. "You still haven't explained what we saw in those memories," he said, watching as Nyxis interfaced with a sealed door. "The machines beneath the worlds, the true purpose of the Dominion, how long has this been going on?" "Since before my species achieved space flight," Nyxis replied, her patterns pulsing as the door reluctantly slid open. "The crystalline Dominion wasn't born from natural evolution. We were engineered." They entered what appeared to be a control center, its walls lined with dormant displays. Dust covered everything, untouched for what must have been centuries. Nyxis moved to the central console, her touch bringing ancient systems back to life. "Engineered by whom?" Marcus asked, though part of him already knew the answer. "We call them the architects." Holographic displays flickered to life around them, showing star maps and complex technical schematics. They seeded countless worlds with their technology, creating servant races to maintain their legacy. My people were meant to be their perfect inheritors, living crystals capable of interfacing with their systems. Marcus studied the displays, his partially crystallized brain processing the information in new ways. But something went wrong. "The architects vanished," Nyxis confirmed. "Whether they ascended to another plane of existence or destroyed themselves, we don't know, but they left behind their machines, their plans, and their final directive." More displays activated, showing massive structures buried beneath various worlds. Marcus recognized them from the shared memories, planet-sized machines humming with terrible purpose. "The harvesters," Nyxis said softly, "designed to collect and store energy on an astronomical scale. My ancestors discovered them, learned to use them, but they never questioned why they existed." "And you found out," Marcus guessed. "The architects feared entropy, the heat death of the universe." Nyxis's patterns darkened. "The harvesters weren't meant to collect energy. They were meant to preserve it, to save select worlds while destroying everything else. A grand reset to extend the universe's lifespan." Marcus felt sick, and the Dominion believes it is our destiny to carry out this plan, to sacrifice trillions to save a chosen few. her three eyes fixed on him intently. "That is what my people guard so carefully, why they hunt me so desperately." A warning alert flashed across the displays. Marcus tensed, reaching for his weapon, but Nyxis raised a hand. "Not enemies," she said. "Others like us, rebels, defectors, those who learned the truth and chose to fight it." As if on cue, a ship materialized outside the station's viewports. Its design was unlike anything Marcus had seen, organic and crystalline at the same time. The station's communication system crackled to life. "Princess Nyxis," a voice said, speaking in both standard and crystalline frequencies. "We've been expecting you." "Commander Vex," she replied. "I see you received my quantum signature." "Along with your new sentinel." There was amusement in the voice. "A human? The Council will be interested in that development." Marcus stepped forward. "Look, I'm still trying to process the whole universe-ending machines thing. What council are we talking about now?" "The Shadow Council," Nyxis explained. "Leaders of the resistance against the Dominion's plans. And now," she turned to him, her patterns shifting into formal configurations. "Now they will help us complete your transformation, because to stop what's coming we'll need every advantage we can get." The station shuddered as docking procedures began. Marcus looked down at his partially crystallized hands, then back at Nyxis. "You know," he said with a wry smile, "when I saved you, I thought the worst that could happen was getting arrested for helping a fugitive. Now I'm part crystal, involved in a cosmic conspiracy, and apparently about to meet a secret council of rebel aliens." "Do you regret your choice?" Nyxis asked, genuine concern in her voice. Marcus thought about the memories they'd shared, the terrible truth he now carried. "No," he said finally, "but I'm adding Universal Reset Button to my list of things to worry about, right after how to explain my new crystal skin to my mother." The docking bay doors opened with a hiss of ancient hydraulics. As footsteps approached the control center, Marcus squared his shoulders, ready to face whatever came next. He might not have chosen this path, but he was committed now to Nyxis, to stopping the harvesters, and to whatever his new crystalline nature would demand of him. The Shadow Council wasn't what Marcus expected. In the station's grand chamber, 7 crystalline figures hovered in a circle, their forms more varied than any he'd seen in the Dominion. Some were barely humanoid, their crystalline structures flowing into abstract shapes that hurt his eyes to follow. "Your transformation progresses quickly," observed Commander Vex, a towering figure whose crystal form rippled like liquid metal. "The human adaptation to our essence is unprecedented." Marcus shifted uncomfortably, aware of how the crystalline patterns now covered nearly half his body. "Yeah, well, I'm full of surprises. Now about these world-ending machines." "The harvesters will activate in 3 standard cycles," interrupted another council member, their form a spiral of shifting geometries. "The Dominion has already begun the initialization sequence." 3 cycles, Marcus turned to Nyxis. "That's barely a week in Earth time. You didn't mention we were on a countdown." "Because until now I wasn't certain." Nyxis's patterns pulsed with urgency. "The data I stole was incomplete. The Council has filled in the gaps." Holographic displays materialized around them, showing dozens of worlds with harvester complexes buried beneath their surfaces. Each pulsed with increasing energy signatures, like hearts beginning to beat in sync. "Once activated, the harvesters cannot be stopped," Commander Vex explained. "They will consume the energy of every star, every planet, every living thing in their radius. Only the designated sanctuary worlds will survive." "And let me guess," Marcus said, "Earth isn't on the sanctuary list." "No human worlds are," Nyxis's voice was soft. "The Dominion considers your species inefficient." The word hit Marcus like a physical blow. He thought of his mother's repair shop back on Earth, of the bustling spaceports and crowded cities. Billions of lives dismissed as inefficient. "There has to be a way to stop it," he insisted. "Some weakness in the system." "There is one possibility," said a council member whose crystal form was tinged with deep violet. "The harvesters require a crystalline key to synchronize their activation. Without it, the process fails." "The key of architects," Nyxis breathed. "But it's kept in the heart of the Dominion capital, in my father's personal vault. Which is why we've waited for you, Princess." Commander Vex's form shifted, revealing complex tactical displays. "You have the royal access codes, and now, with your Sentinel's unique hybrid nature, we have an advantage they won't expect." Marcus looked at the displays, studying the capital's defenses. "Because I'm only partially crystallized, their systems won't recognize me as a threat." "Precisely. You exist between states, neither fully human nor fully crystalline. Their sensors will struggle to track you." A new alert flashed across the displays. One of the council members dissolved into pure energy for a moment before reforming. "The Dominion fleet is mobilizing. They're beginning to secure the harvester sites." "Then we have no choice," Nyxis said. "We must move now." Commander Vex turned to Marcus. "The final stage of your transformation can be accelerated, but the process is dangerous. Without it, you cannot fully interface with Dominion systems." "And with it," Marcus guessed, "I might lose what's left of my humanity." "The choice must be yours," Nyxis said, her three eyes meeting his. "I will not force this upon you as I did the initial change." Marcus looked at the displays showing Earth, thought of everything and everyone he'd be leaving behind either way. Then he looked at Nyxis, remembering the weight of the memories they'd shared, the horror of what would happen if they failed. "My humanity," he said finally, "isn't just about my physical form. It's about choosing to fight for what's right, even when the odds are impossible." He stepped forward. "Let's finish this transformation. Then we're going to break into the most secure facility in the galaxy, steal an ancient artifact, and save every living thing the Dominion deemed inefficient." Nyxis's patterns brightened with what might have been pride. Commander Vex nodded gravely. "Begin the procedure," he commanded, "and may the architects forgive us for defying their grand design." As the council members moved to encircle him, their crystalline energy beginning to pulse in harmony, Marcus allowed himself one last fully human thought. His mother was definitely going to kill him for missing their weekly call.